Welcome everyone to another Cityworks virtual conference presentation. Today, my team and I are going to share how we use Cityworks Mobile to improve our workflows. Thus the title, Cityworks Mobile Deployment Improves Workflows for North Penn Water Authority. Today, I'm joined by two of my fellow colleagues. First off, I have Elisa Peters with me. Elisa is a senior Cityworks consultant at Power Engineers. She's been implementing Cityworks since the good old days when this conference was held in Park City, where all sorts of shenanigans went down. Lisa spends her downtime as a part-time dog trainer for her new puppy. And based on some of her stories about the puppy, I am not sure who is training who at this point. She also enjoys working alongside Dan on this project, or at least that's what she tells me to my face. Next, let me introduce my coworker, Maggie Whitmer. Maggie is the GIS technician at North Penn Water Authority who supports our GIS and Cityworks implementation. Maggie also enjoys working alongside her co-presenter Dan, and encourages him to increase her salary based on this last comment. Okay, moving right along. Our other presenter today is Lisa Peters, and I will hand it off to her.
All right, I'm going to introduce Dan. Dan Pierce is the CIO for the North Penn Water Authority, and he's responsible for all aspects of IT operations within the authority. He's served on the North Penn Water Management team since 2001 and single-handedly is responsible for bringing GIS to the authority way back in the 90s. In his downtime, Dan enjoys coaching lacrosse and keeping consultants on their toes.
Thanks, Lisa. Let's move on now to everyone's favorite slide, the agenda. This is where you as a viewer will decide whether you keep watching or not. So in short, this is our make or break moment. Our agenda for today includes a quick overview of North Penn Water Authority, project background and drivers of the project itself, which is mainly a detailed GIS roadmap, and our phased approach to implement this GIS roadmap. We'll follow up this demo of how North Penn used Cityworks Mobile to implement one of our recommendations from the GIS roadmap. This recommendation was hydrant inspections. We will then wrap up with some feedback from our managers and then some end users' actual feedback. Okay, North Penn Water Authority. North Penn Water Authority is a municipally owned nonprofit authority located in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. For some reference, Lansdale is about 30 miles north of Philadelphia. We have a total of 52 employees, and our service area is comprised of 20 municipalities. We have about 585 miles of water main, 3,700 hydrants, and a little over 35,000 service connections. If you would like more detail or any other background on North Penn Water Authority, please feel free to visit our website at www.npwa.org, which is right on this slide. Okay, let's do some project background. And we're going to go back to the start. North Penn Water Authority implemented our GIS in 1996. In 2001, we implemented Cityworks Desktop for our operations and meter departments. In 2008, we integrated both our GIS and Cityworks with our customer information system. We did this so any customer-related service request or work order originated in our customer information system. This integration also moved us from printing paper work orders to using laptops for Cityworks. One major note, the move away from paper work orders was for our meter department only. The operations department was still printing work orders. In the fall of 2017, we determined that it was an appropriate time to thoroughly review our current processes and technical setup. We based this on a few things. One, our GIS tech who was maintaining our GIS had left the authority. And two, we were aware that at the current speed at which GIS technology was moving, we did not have the in-house capabilities or expertise to do this review on our own. With these items as the main driving forces, the management team decided on retaining a GIS consultant that could provide us the GIS industry-related expertise. That was a mouthful. So, as you can see from Elisa's title and company name in the introductions, we selected Power Engineers to develop and implement our GIS roadmap. With that, I will hand it off to Elisa.
All right, thanks, Dan. So our GIS and Cityworks roadmap actually included many recommendations, but I just wanted to mention a few of the key items which are shown on this graphic here. Our first priority was to put in place a fully separate testing environment where we could install the latest versions of GIS and Cityworks. and begin showing them some of the new capabilities without impacting the production environment. So when the project began, they actually were using a single server to host everything for Cityworks and GIS. And now they have 4 servers, an application server and a database server for production, and then an application server and a database server for the combined testing and development environment. The next item we tackled on the roadmap was to introduce them to ArcGIS Online and the Esri Collector app. We had good success with this approach for a couple of our other clients. And so we advised them to purchase a couple of survey grade Trimble R1 receivers, which are compatible with the Esri Collector app. And for that, we completed the training and deployment last March. So since then, they've actually purchased 3 more GPS units and have been really happy with the system. So next on the roadmap is deploying Cityworks Mobile, which is obviously the focus of this presentation. So I'll get into the details of our approach on that on the next slide. I just wanted to mention that one more key item on the roadmap is the complete rebuild of their existing Cogsdale integration. So the new integration is going to be built using the Cityworks APIs and the Cogsdale APIs. So it should be much easier to maintain moving forward. And that integration is currently in development as we speak. All right, so the first step we took in implementing Cityworks Mobile was to document their processes using swim lane diagrams. We listened to how they're currently doing things and tried to think about how it could be done instead using Cityworks Mobile. We then created diagrams that matched the proposed processes, not the existing processes. We decided that it would be best to deploy to the meters department first because these folks, they deal with customer calls and reactive maintenance related to only the water meters. And sometimes they need the help from the operations staff, but for the most part, they're pretty independent, which allowed us to deploy to them only without impacting the operations department. These people were also thought to be a little bit more computer savvy, and we wanted to test it out on the group that was more likely to be successful with it. You know, the old low-hanging fruit philosophy. After we had good success deploying mobile to the meters department, we then deployed it to the operations department, still focusing primarily on the reactive maintenance workflow. And after a few months of them getting comfortable with mobile, we moved on to the last 2 phases, which were valve turning and hydrant flushing. Both of these processes were fully paper-based, and they had never been tracked in Cityworks at all. And in fact, they had not been using Cityworks inspections for anything up until this point. So this had the potential to be a pretty big adjustment for the field guys. So once we had our proposed workflows drafted, we configured Cityworks in their test environment. And then the 3 of us, me, Maggie, and Dan, we walked through the processes using Cityworks Mobile. And then once we were confident that it could meet their requirements, we invited the operations manager. He's the big boss. We invited him in and demonstrated it to him. And, you know, he asked some questions, gave us some feedback and stuff. And so that sparked some additional modifications and improvements to the process. We met with him at least once more, and then we invited the maintenance superintendent to attend to get his thoughts. And he was going to be one of the primary users. So it was key that we got his buy-in. One little gotcha we discovered was that you cannot reassign a task to someone else when you're using Cityworks Mobile. You can see the assigned to field, but you can't edit it. And since North Penn uses tasks for almost, well, every work order, this limitation created a little bit of a challenge for us. This is just something to be aware of. So for anyone listening who also uses tasks, we'd like you to please go to the My Cityworks Ideas site and vote for our idea to allow tasks to be reassigned using mobile. So once we were all in agreement that the process was as simple and streamlined as possible, we were ready for training and deployment. And on this slide, we've got just a couple of screenshots of the custom training materials that Maggie is going to describe in more detail next.
All right. So before our training session with our 5 flushing crew members and their supervisor, I created the workflows that Elisa just showed you in the previous slide that include step-by-step instructions of each member's role in the hydrant flushing process. The supervisor's workflow includes instructions and screenshots of how to perform a GIS search in Cityworks Office, and then instructions on how to create inspections from the search results. I also included information on how to QC and close the inspections after the crew members complete them in the field. And then the crew members' workflows show them how to begin a flushing route in Cityworks Mobile, fill out the inspection form associated with a hydrant, and then how to create a work order from the inspection if one is needed. During our COVID-conscious training session, we set crew members' Cityworks mobile apps to point to our test Cityworks mobile site. Elisa shared her iPad screen via a projector in our boardroom and walked everyone through the process from start to finish. The supervisor created the inspections, the crew members received them and completed a few of the inspections on their mobile devices, and then the supervisor reviewed and closed those inspections back in Cityworks Office. We didn't take a photo of our training session for Cityworks Mobile, but included here is one from Collector, but it looked pretty much the same, everyone masked up. And overall, it was a successful training session and everyone seemed to be happy and confident with the entire process.
Thanks, Meg. Okay. Before I talk about our actual deployment, I want to remind everyone how we used to send work orders and service requests out to staff. I mentioned this in the 5th slide, so if you weren't paying attention, you got to hear it again. So remember, our meter department was accessing Cityworks Office via a laptop, which was great, except their laptop had to be connected to the internet using a mobile hotspot, and then they connected to our network via VPN connection, and then they needed to access Cityworks Office through remote desktop services. In contrast, our operations department had a designated administrative staff member who would work with the distribution superintendent to create a work order or service request in Cityworks. The admin would then print these out and put them in his bin. He would retrieve the work orders or service requests from his bin and then physically hand them out each day to his workers. You can see where this is going, right? The path back to completing the service order involved the field staff writing on this piece of paper what was done and then putting it back in the superintendent's bin, who then put it in the admin's bin, where she completed the work order or service request using Cityworks Office. So to simplify this whole process, Power recommended a few things. First, we needed to externalize the web servers running Cityworks so that users no longer had to be connected to the authority's network in order to access Cityworks. Second, they recommend that we use tablets instead of laptops for all field staff to access Cityworks. Tablets are much more affordable and they're way less bulky to carry around. However, if they were going to use tablets, I, as the IT manager, felt that we needed to make the user experience as simple as possible. That is where my research for a mobile device management software began. So let's talk mobile device management software. Mobile device management software is a software tool for the administration of mobile devices. The term is as simple as what it is. So this would include smartphones, tablets, and even laptops. The main function I wanted to get out of the MDM was the ability to customize the interface of these tablets. And when I say customize, I mean locking down the interface so that the end user experience was simple and clean as possible. So some highlights of what we use the MDM for. First off, we removed access to the Safari browser. No one wants to think their employees are just spending their day surfing the internet instead of working, but by removing Safari from their iPads, it removed that whole possible issue. We also made the whole interface cleaner. So the only apps that an end user sees on their tablet are the apps that we allow to be visible. We literally have 9 or 10 apps on each user's tablet, depending on their preference. So you can see from the screenshot, this would be what everyone's, when they open their tablet in the morning, what they see. It's the settings app, which was there to basically let them turn on or off their wireless. The photos and camera app, which are required for Cityworks. Then the next 2 apps you see, MOS 360 and our app catalog, are how we manage the tablet. So if they open them, there's really nothing they can do in there. Then we also installed Outlook. So now every external user our crew guys all have email, then Cityworks Mobile, of course, to use Cityworks, ArcGIS Collector for our asset collection. The other app you see is PA One Call, which is what we use for our call before you dig. That's a Pennsylvania state app. And then the one app you don't see here is Google Maps, which some users asked for, and we rolled out. If they don't want it, we don't push it out to them. Some people just know the area, so they don't need any Google Maps. Also, if you're wondering, we deploy 18 iPad Air tablets, each equipped with a ruggedized case, and they each have built-in LTE wireless. I could do a whole presentation on MDM, but what I wanted to get out here is that I would strongly recommend that you consider an MDM if you're deploying Cityworks Mobile externally to your staff. I will give one other large lesson learned tip today. Never allow apps to auto-update. Everything you do should be tested and explicitly rolled out. Power, if they don't mind me saying, had a client who did not know this, and when the Cityworks app auto-updated, they were no longer able to log in to Cityworks Mobile and had to pursue trying to roll back everyone's devices to the previous version. It doesn't sound like it was a fun process. All right, since we can't demonstrate everything we accomplished with Power in a 20-minute presentation, we decided to focus on one process of our GIS roadmap only. This process is the Hydrant Flushing / inspection program. The process was always done on paper, but it's now done using Cityworks Mobile. So with that, I will hand it off to Elisa and Maggie.
All right, thanks, Dan. So I'm going to be acting as the maintenance superintendent here at NPWA. That's Bill Hoffman. And I'm going to select a flushing route to begin and assign to someone here in Cityworks Office. Before I do that, I just want to explain how we group our hydrants together for the flushing process. I have a hydrant selected here in the map, and I want to point out this field here called flushing route. That's just a route number that groups together hydrants in a particular area. And then flushing number, that is the sequence in which we flush the hydrants. So this one says 30, but it's really number 3. We space them together by tens, just in case a new one is installed and needs to be inserted into that flushing route. So with that, here in Cityworks, I'm going to do a GIS search. And I'm going to search for fire hydrants. And today I want to flush route 147. So I'll type that there, click search. And I'm going to make sure I select all my hydrants here and then create the inspection. I'll make sure hydrant flushing inspection is selected, and then I'll click create. And then I want to apply all of these to one person. One person's going to be completing this route, so I'm going to click apply to all and then submit them to Elisa, aka Power Engineering. And I'll click save. And sometimes we need to add a special note to a hydrant. For example, when the hydrant is draining, it may flood a customer's driveway, or it's in a high pressure area and it needs to be open and shut slowly. So to add a special note, I'm going to find that particular hydrant. And then I'm going to type the note in the appropriately named special instructions box. So that way, when the crew member opens up the inspection on their iPad, the special instructions will be the first box that they see. So that'll be clear right away that they need to pay attention to that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Elisa, who's going to act as a flushing crew member in the field.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to be on my iPad here. So you'll see me looking down, but I'm really working. So, all right. So here I am looking at Cityworks Mobile. First, I want to log in. And when we log in, we're using the Cityworks single sign-on here through ArcGIS Online, which is connected to their Active Directory, which is hosted in Azure. And then now we are synchronizing. Every time you log into Cityworks Mobile, it synchronizes and gets any of the latest information that's been submitted to you, downloads it all. All right. So it always takes you to the map when you first open up Cityworks, but we've trained the users to go to the inbox to get to the first hydrant first. So I'll go up here to the inbox. And then I'll switch to my inspections down here. All right, so we're utilizing the location field here because Cityworks Mobile only has a couple of fields that are available, that are visible to the user. So we're using the location field, and we put the route number and the flushing number as part of that location field so that we could then sort on our location. And then that way, the first hydrant in the route always comes to the top. So it's route 147, number 10, like Maggie said, will be the first hydrant. So to open that inspection, I just tap on the row. And then from here, I need to enter my observations. So that's down here. And then like you saw, here's the special instructions that Maggie typed in. Water may flood the customer driveway. So that's good. I will be mindful of that. First question is the paint condition. I'm going to pretend that this hydrant needs paint. So I'm going to say it needs some paint, but everything else is good. Just answer all the questions. Hydrant opens okay, closes okay, drains, yep. It doesn't leak. And then it flushed for 11 to 15 minutes. And for static pressure, sometimes they have the equipment with them to measure that. And if they do, they enter it. And then that is one of the fields that will get written back to the GIS so that they've got that information in there whenever they need it. They're not tracking flow yet, but that is coming in the future. And we're going to say that, yes, a work order is needed because I want to create a work order for the paint. So tap yes, and then I return back to my main inspection form. And then at this point, I can complete my inspection down here. So just use the slider. And then I want to create my child work order for the paint. So that's going to be up here. Tap the button, add work order. And then now it automatically takes the hydrant from the parent inspection. So I don't have to select a hydrant or anything. It's already got it. I just have to choose the right template. So I tap in the template row, and then I find my paint hydrant here. So tap on that. And then the last thing I need to do is just hit the create button up here. Okay. So now you can see I'm looking at the work order, and it's submitted by default. It's submitted to Bill Hoffman, my supervisor. So that's where I want it to go. So I don't have to change anything. The only thing I'm going to want to do here is attach a photo. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom where attachments are. And I'm going to tap on that. And I'm going to add an attachment. I just have to click the plus button here. And take a photo. So here's a photo of some hydrant that needs some paint. All right, and then I'm going to use that photo. Here I've got my attachment. I can go back to the work order. And then at this point, I'm done with that particular hydrant. I did my inspection, I created the child work order, and now I'm ready to move on to the next hydrant in sequence. So in this case, instead of going back to the inbox, we only use the inbox for the first hydrant. After that, we use the map. So I'm going to tap on this little green button up here to take me to current location on the map. Let me zoom in a little bit. So this is where you can see that we've created hydrant flushing routes by basically just connecting the dots in between each of the hydrants that are participating in a certain route. So you can see there's my new work order. All I need to do is follow the arrows to the next inspection. And then that is the one I need to do next. So then I just open it up and repeat everything I did before. Just complete the observations and so on and so on. So at this point, I'm just going to synchronize so that Maggie can see my one completed inspection, and then she'll show you that. Synchronize up here. All right, back to you, Maggie.
Okay, thanks, Elisa. Well done. Okay, so back in Cityworks Office, acting as Bill Hoffman, I can see on this hydrant flushing inspections inbox tab that Elisa created for Bill, any inspections that are open, and even a chart who they're assigned to. That's nice to see. And then inspections that have been completed and are ready to close. So I'm going to open up that inspection and take a look at it, make sure everything looks okay. I've got my static pressure. We're not doing flow GPM yet. A follow-up work order is needed, so maybe I'll want to check that out. And then I can check out that work order right here. And everything else looks good, so I'm going to close it. And then that static pressure will copy back over to the GIS. And if Bill would like, if he trusts that everyone is doing everything correctly, if there were a bunch of inspections here, which there have been in the past, he can select a whole bunch of them, click that Apply to All button that we talked about before, and then just close them all. And then any of those work orders that have been created are automatically submitted to him, so he'll see them in another inbox tab. And then another thing I would like to show you is this GIS search that Elisa created. It shows us all hydrants that have been flushed so far this year. So you can see outlined by our service area here that we just have a little bit more to go. We've been at this for a couple months now, and the guys are working hard and they're almost done. So this replaced a huge piece of paper that I would have to print out. It would just be a paper version of this, and Bill would have to go through with a highlighter and manually highlight all of the hydrants that have been done to keep track of them, make sure we're staying on track. So this is a great replacement to see what has been done so far. Okay, I think back to you, Dan.
Oh, wonderful. Mag, that was good. Thanks. Okay, let's see. Let's see if I can finally figure out how to move to the next slide. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to wrap up with some user feedback. So, you know, coming from a management point of view, managers and superintendents have had nothing but good things to say about the new process, which may be a first for me. The only complaints we have had are about self-service. So that's why I have in here, you know, keep paper on hand if you're going a route of using any kind of inspection like this. It's just self-service is something we can't control. The other thing was, from management point of view, was real-time reporting. In the past, there was always a big lag from when a paperwork order was turned in until it was keyed into Cityworks. Now all the reports are real-time, so they can look and see right away, you know, how many hydrants were reported, were inspected, and that's from a higher level management. And then from the supervisor level, they can look at that map like Maggie talked about, which was great. It's way easier to track this way. They love the fact that they could see the yellow area growing every day, and when they cover the whole service area, they're almost done. And of course, eliminating paper has reduced a lot of human error as well as lost paperwork. So then I wanted to also bring up some user feedback. So we sent some questions out to about 10 questions out to a bunch of our guys that are doing flushing, which is about, you know, between 4 and 6 guys. So here we go, some user feedback. We have about 3,900 hydrants and 125 blow-off valves that are operating in 8 weeks. So we need to operate and maintain 100 hydrants a day. With the paper routes, I would manually count the hydrants flushed every day to make certain we were staying on track with that number. With Cityworks, I can see a total number of hydrants that have been flushed, as well as how many hydrants each individual crew member has flushed on a daily basis. A big time saver. Another bit of user feedback. We can generate a work order from Cityworks Mobile immediately if we have a problem with the hydrant. Some example of issues are the hydrant's hard to operate, the hydrant's leaking, the hydrant's not draining, the hydrant needs paint. With paper, they would write these notes down, and then I would have to take these notes and generate a work order for that hydrant. Another big time saver. And our final user feedback comment, it's much easier and quicker using Cityworks Mobile to find the location of the hydrants that are on each flushing route. With the paper map, you had to open it up and orient yourself to find the next hydrant. The paper map was 36 inches by 36 inches, which was not easy to look at a truck in overnight. Meaning they had to open it up in their truck and roll out a 36 inch by 36 inch piece of paper. With Cityworks Mobile, the screen is easily viewable at night. You only see the area that you are working in compared to the paper map that contained the entire township. So we've got nothing but great feedback from all our users, which has been a great thing. So with that does end our presentation. I want to thank the people at Cityworks, first off for their conference, and for Gregor, who is sending each of us a $500 Amazon gift card for our appearance today. But seriously, I want to thank Maggie and Elisa for their hard work on this project. They put way more work in than me on this project, especially this presentation, as you can tell. So with that, I want to say I hope to see everyone next year in person at the Cityworks conference.
Yay.
So thank you. Yes, our contact information is up there if you want to reach out to us. Thanks.
Thank you.